A spotless countertop. Dead ants. A coughing retreat guest grips the communal ladle. In the Buddhist settings we are examining, both scenes raise one uncomfortable question. Did you remove the problem or pass its cost to another living being? We will test exactly 7 hygiene habits against early Buddhist texts, Theravada monastic discipline, and modern Zen guidance, with a practical correction for each. And the 7th turns disgust inside out. Sometimes the person who recoils is the one failing the test. Start with the spotless counter and the life removed to produce it. One boundary before number 1. Buddhism has no worldwide hygiene code. A lay family in Sri Lanka, a Tibetan center in Europe, and a Japanese Zen monastery may follow different customs. Ancient rules for ordained monks are not automatic commands for every Buddhist today. These 7 habits come from named settings: early Buddhist texts, Theravada monastic discipline, and published guidance from modern Zen communities. When a rule is monastic or local, we will say so. And disgust will not always mean a grimace. Sometimes it is physical revulsion. Sometimes it is moral unease at a clean-looking result bought through killing, contamination, entitlement, or neglect. Keep one test in mind. Where did the unwanted thing go, and who inherited the cost? Number 1. Killing pests in the name of cleanliness. You find ants around the sugar, a spider in the bath, or a mosquito on the wall. The reflex is almost automatic. Spray, crush, wipe, finished. The counter looks controlled again. Yet for Buddhists shaped by the first precept, the deliberate death hidden inside that clean result can be more disturbing than the insect. Early Buddhist teaching describes a practitioner as giving up the killing of living creatures and living with sympathy for them. Theravada monastic discipline becomes more specific. If an ordained monk intentionally kills an animal, the offense must be confessed. In the traditional explanation, size does not erase the act. It mentions ants and even bedbug eggs. Intention is decisive. If a monk sweeps carefully, trying not to kill insects, and some die accidentally, that differs from sweeping in order to crush them. That distinction keeps the point realistic. Nobody can move through life without accidental harm, and a serious infestation can threaten health. The question is not whether you can guarantee perfect harmlessness. It is whether death was your first response before prevention or safe removal was even considered. Try the sequence in that order. Remove exposed food and water. Seal cracks and fit screens. Move a harmless insect with a container when you can do so safely. If the infestation is severe or the animal is dangerous, get qualified help and ask what least harm option is realistic. Compassion does not require reckless contact with venomous animals or disease. The counter may now be clean, but if poison was the only idea you allowed yourself, the method remains visible to someone training in non-harm, and the next habit exposes a different shortcut, making a mess disappear by placing it behind a closed door. Number 2. Leaving a shared restroom dirty. The flush worked badly. The seat was soiled. Water reached the floor. The last paper or soap was used. Some people simply close the door and walk away. Their private problem has ended, so the next person receives the surprise, the contamination, and the labor. The early Buddhist monastic code spends remarkable attention on toilets. Its protocol says that when water is available, a monk should rinse after defecating. A restroom soiled with excrement should be washed. A dirty one should be swept. A full receptacle for used wiping sticks should be emptied. An empty rinsing pot should be refilled. The fixtures belong to ancient India. The social logic needs no translation. The person who notices the problem does not become invisible because the task is unpleasant. In a modern restroom, flush completely. Clean a seat you soiled. Put paper and sanitary waste where that facility requires. Wash your hands. If the toilet is blocked or supplies are empty, tell the host or manager. Do not dismantle plumbing you do not understand. Just refuse to make disgust part of the next person's visit. The body itself is not the scandal here. Urination and defecation are ordinary. Shame fixes nothing. The failure begins when privacy becomes a hiding place for transferring evidence and work to a stranger. Imagine the next person opening that door with a small child, limited mobility, or an urgent medical need. Your 10-second shortcut becomes their immediate problem. You can leave with clean hands and still leave the community with a contaminated room. The next habit follows that same transfer beyond a door into water, gardens, and other living systems. Number 3. Spitting or relieving yourself in water or on living plants. Picture someone brushing their teeth outdoors and spitting into a monastery flower bed. Or a traveler decides the stream beside a retreat is far enough away to serve as a toilet. The waste has vanished from their immediate space. It has also entered a place used by plants, animals, and people. 2 Sekhiya training rules for early Buddhist monks address this directly. Except in cases of illness, a monk was not to defecate, urinate, or spit on living crops. Another rule applies to water suitable for drinking or bathing. The traditional explanations recognize distress and the absence of a viable alternative. This is training in mindful conduct, not punishment of a body in crisis. These rules arose in a world without modern sewers. They are not 21st century environmental statutes, and pretending otherwise would be dishonest. Their direction is still clear. Moving bodily waste out of your sight is not hygiene if you foul a living or shared resource. 2 travelers can leave an equally tidy campsite. One carried waste to a designated facility. The other hid it where rain can move it downhill. The visible result is the same for a minute. The destination makes the ethical and hygienic difference. Use a designated toilet, drain, or sealed receptacle. At an unfamiliar temple or retreat, ask where wastewater and sanitary products belong. Do not guess that a garden, stream, fire pit, compost pile, or ordinary bin is acceptable. If a medical condition creates urgency, tell the organizer early so a safe arrangement can be made without humiliation. This chapter changes the camera angle. Hygiene does not end at the hand that releases the waste. It follows the waste to its destination. The 4th habit brings the focus back to the body, and to a kind of neglect sometimes disguised as spirituality. Number 4. Neglecting teeth and breath in the name of simplicity. Spiritual life is sometimes imagined as freedom from grooming. If attachment to appearance is a problem, someone may conclude that careful brushing, cleaning between the teeth, or treating persistent bad breath is vanity. In a close community, that conclusion can make chanting, instruction, shared rooms, and face-to-face conversation needlessly difficult. The early monastic record points in a more practical direction. It allows tooth-cleaning wood and lists benefits, including preventing foul-smelling breath, cleaning the taste buds, and making food more enjoyable. A modern Theravada monastic guide treats toothbrushes and dental floss as functional equivalents of that old tool. The object changed. Ordinary care for the mouth still made sense. The stakes are small until the room is small. During quiet instruction, the teacher and student may sit an arm's length apart. During chanting, dozens of people breathe in rhythm. A manageable personal issue becomes part of everyone else's sensory space. Bad breath is not proof of bad character. Medication, dry mouth, infection, and dental or other health conditions can contribute. Mocking someone would betray the care this video is arguing for. The problem is using spirituality as permission to ignore a manageable effect on people nearby. The correction is deliberately unexotic. Brush thoroughly. Clean between the teeth. Keep personal dental tools clean and separate. Drink enough water. Before morning chanting, an interview with the teacher, or a long ride with retreat companions, give your breath the attention you would give it before a work meeting. Persistent odor deserves help from a dentist or clinician, not a cloud of fragrance hiding the symptom. Renunciation concerns attachment and display. It is not a command to cultivate avoidable grime. And here, around the midpoint, Remember the final case still ahead. A monk lies in his own waste while the people around him keep their distance. To understand how a community reaches that failure, watch what happens first when illness touches a shared meal, and then when cleaning is treated as beneath us. Number 5. Touching communal food service while sick. You paid for the retreat and traveled a long way. Then you wake with a fever, coughing, or constant sniffling. You decide that determination means following the entire schedule. At breakfast, your hand closes around the same ladle, tongs, jug, and condiment jars everyone else will touch. From inside your story, you are persevering. From across the table, you may be spreading avoidable risk through the objects connecting the room. Here, the setting matters. Published practice period guidance from Green Dragon Temple, part of San Francisco Zen Center, tells sick participants to wash their hands before getting food. If someone has a fever, coughs, or sniffles, the guide says to ask another person to serve them rather than touch the serving utensils. It also calls for frequent hand washing. That is one Zen community's operational guidance, not a timeless Buddhist rule for everyone. The useful principle travels farther than the rule. Report symptoms instead of hiding them to look committed. Follow the venue's current health policy. Ask for a separate portion or help from the meal team. Depending on the illness and current professional guidance, that may also mean a mask, a test, medical care, or staying home. If a chronic non-infectious cough or allergies could be mistaken for infection, explain that privately so organizers can respond accurately. This is not only about germs on a handle. It is about the story that says attendance proves virtue. When showing up creates risk for everyone else, staying away may be the more disciplined act. Practice grants no exemption from biology. Sometimes humility means accepting a plate from someone else and missing part of the schedule. The clean choice reduces avoidable exposure without turning the sick person into a threat or a source of shame. Illness makes invisible service visible. Someone portions the food, washes the cup, wipes the table, and cleans the hall. The sixth habit is enjoying the calm created by that work, while imagining the work belongs to a lower kind of person. Number 6. Treating cleaning as someone else's low-status work. A visitor finishes tea and leaves the cup beside the sink. A cushion is stained, so they turn it over. Food falls under the table, and they assume staff will find it. They came for meditation, teachings, and silence. Washing dishes feels like an interruption from the meaningful part. In several Zen communities, that hierarchy collapses. San Francisco Zen Center schedules soji, or temple cleaning, alongside seated meditation and morning service. Plum Village describes the kitchen as a practice space and asks people to cook and clean mindfully because others depend on the food and the room. Its guidance compares washing dishes with caring for an altar. The communities differ in lineage and routine, but both place maintenance inside practice rather than beneath it. During soji, the broom does not ask who has the most impressive meditation history. The dirty floor is simply the next shared need. That ordinary scene punctures the fantasy that spiritual status should exempt anyone from maintenance. The practical lesson is not to stage a heroic deep clean. Close the loop on what you use. Wash, dry, and return the cup. Wipe the spill while it is small. Put a tool back clean. If you stay at a center, learn its system before mixing chemicals, moving ritual objects, or reorganizing someone else's kitchen. Ask which task is needed, learn how it is done, and finish without making another person supervise every step. Why can this provoke such strong moral unease? Because the abandoned cup reveals entitlement. Someone consumes the peace produced by other people's labor while telling themselves their meditation stands above that labor. A tiny object exposes an entire social arrangement. The rhythm is simple. Use, notice, restore. Cups and floors are the easy version. Now we reach the person from the midpoint, where contamination has a face and disgust can no longer pretend to be self-protection alone. Number 7. Avoiding a soiled sick person because their body repels you. An early Buddhist monastic account describes a monk with dysentery lying alone, fouled by urine and excrement. The other monks had not cared for him. When the Buddha and Ananda found him, they fetched water, washed him, lifted him, and placed him on a bed. The Buddha then confronted the community. If they did not care for one another, who would? The text assigns responsibility for nursing the sick rather than leaving care to chance. Then comes the line that reverses this list. Among the qualities of an unfit nurse, the account includes becoming disgusted when cleaning excrement, urine, saliva, or vomit. Buddhist discipline contains rules keeping bodily waste out of shared rooms, usable water, living plants, and meals. But when that waste is attached to a helpless person, revulsion cannot become a license for abandonment. That is not permission for unsafe amateur medicine. Compassion uses gloves, hand washing, ventilation, clean linens, correct disposal, and professional help. If you cannot provide physical care, arrange someone who can. Bring water. Call the nurse. Replace bedding under guidance. Sit nearby. Protect privacy. The action depends on the illness and your competence. The commitment is that a person does not become disposable because care is unpleasant. Now return to the question from the beginning. Did you remove the problem or merely pass its cost to another living being? A polished counter may hide a dead insect. Clean hands may leave a restroom dirty. A tidy campsite may conceal waste in a stream. Fresh breath can protect a close conversation. A full retreat schedule can conceal infection. A serene hall can rest on invisible labor. And a clean robe can remain at a safe distance from a patient lying in filth. The 7 habits are independent, but the test connecting them is the same. First, where did the unwanted thing actually go? Second, who now carries the harm, contamination, risk, or work? If the answer is another creature, the next visitor, a shared ecosystem, the people beside you, the meal team, the cleaner, or the patient, then the chain of care is incomplete. Cleanliness, in this frame, is not a spotless image. It is a completed responsibility. Prevent needless harm. Contain what can spread. Restore what you use. Ask for help before risk travels. And when a suffering person is part of the scene, never confuse removing the mess with removing the person. Which of the 7 changed your definition of cleanliness most? Put the number in the comments and name the assumption it challenged. If your Buddhist tradition or region handles that case differently, add the context so the discussion becomes more accurate, not more universal. The next video tackles the opposite mistake. Hygiene customs. The internet calls Buddhist even when they belong to one monastery, country, or moment in history. That distinction is where cultural curiosity becomes honest understanding.